A magical season for SMU in 2024. Can they repeat that in 25? Can they get back to the college football playoff? We're going to give you an early projected record for the Mustangs here in this video. But first, we'll look at the schedule. So here is that schedule. They open up with East Texas A&M in their opener August 30th. I don't think I've ever even heard of that school. That's who they'll play first, week one. Then they play Baylor on September 6th. That's going to be a big non-conference game. Baylor actually plays Auburn and SMU, so they have a couple of tough games in the non-conference. You've got Missouri State on the road September 13th. Yes, on the road. Again, something that's kind of odd with the schedule. And then they'll play TCU on the road September 20th. So they're going to play all four of their non-conference games there in the first 4 weeks of the season, and they'll play two of them on the road. And you just don't really see this a whole lot with, Power 4 teams. But remember, not that long ago, SMU was not a Power 4 team. This was a Group of 5 team. So I don't know when all these games were scheduled or whatever, but yeah, I mean, that is extremely rare to see a Power 4 team go on the road to play an FCS team. I don't know if I've ever seen that, but they will play on the road at Missouri State. Again, that game on September 13th. But back-to-back road games there in the non-conference, and they get their first bye week heading into ACC conference play. They're going to play Syracuse on October 4th at home, then at home on October 11th against Stanford. So they'll play Stanford and Cal. You see Cal at the end. Luckily, you at least get one of those games at home. So Stanford there on October 11th. Then it's a road game at Clemson October 18th. Another road game, this time at Wake Forest on October 25th. Then they're back home for Miami on November 1st. And on the road at Boston College November 8th. They get their other bye week kind of late in the year, November 15th. Then they follow that up with a home game against Louisville and a road game at California. So they'll play at Cal to close things out. And that's a game you'd really rather have, maybe after that bye week. They'd probably rather have Cal and Louisville switch. Of course, Louisville's going to play Kentucky at the end of the year every year. But, you would like this schedule to maybe be moved around a little bit differently, where you get a bye week either before or after traveling to Cal. So that's one complaint, I guess, if I'm an SMU fan. You've got the back-to-back road games with Clemson and Wake Forest, and again, just a weird. I can't hardly get over that game at Missouri State September 13th. So that's the full schedule. How does it stack up with the other teams in the ACC conference schedule-wise? SMU's conference opponents last year went 33-31. So this year's opponents last year went 33-31. That's a 52% win percentage. It's going to be right there in the middle of the pack. It's one of the tougher conference schedules, but it's nothing crazy. They're at 52% win percentage. So yeah, kind of an average conference schedule. Non-conference though will be pretty tough with Baylor and TCU, a couple of Power 4 teams in the non-conference. So let's get to the projection now. We'll go through the entire schedule. This is the scale that we use. So if you're wondering, where I put SMU is in tier number 3. And again, these projections are all based off of our tier rankings. SMU was a tier 2 team last year. But when I look at, a lot of different factors, first of all the losses that they've got, especially on defense. They do have some key pieces coming back on offense, but they will lose a lot, especially up front from this defense. So you would expect them to take a bit of a step back there. And just the history of SMU. SMU is not a powerhouse program, so you figure they might drop off a little bit this year. Still a tier 3 team. That's still right there with teams like Louisville in the ACC. So a very respectable spot for them, but not quite where they were last year. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe they'll be a tier 1 team. Who knows? But again, looking at where they finished last year and what they lost, they did drop one tier. So that means if they play another tier 3 team, it's a 50-50 game. It's in the white. It's between 40 and 60%. If they play a tier 4 team, it's in that 61 to 70% range. If that game's on the road, though, then it becomes a 40 to 60% game, and it is, basically a toss-up, basically a 50-50 game. So that's the way it works, and we'll get to the projection now for SMU. They will open up with, or we'll start with, I should say, the easier wins. East Texas A&M. It's hard to even say. East Texas A&M. Like it's just a weird name. Missouri State and Stanford. So Stanford was far enough down, and that game's at home to where that one's in the green. So these are games that you could almost guarantee as wins. I wouldn't say guaranteed wins, but you feel really good about these three games. Stanford's kind of a mess right now, so you'd expect SMU to be able to take care of business in that game. Now, how about games in the blue? So you got Wake Forest and Boston College. These games, I would expect SMU to be favored by double digits. Now, if these games were at home, that would actually put them in the green. But because they're on the road, they are in that blue range. That's 71 to 80% spot. So, yeah, these are games where SMU, you feel pretty good. But obviously, on the road in the conference, you never know. There could be an upset. But, yeah, you feel pretty good about both of these games. I think SMU is probably going to be about a touchdown or 2-touchdown favorite, I would say, against both Wake Forest and Boston College. So then we move on to games where I think they're going to be a favorite, but not a huge favorite. Syracuse is 1 tier below SMU. Cal is 2 tiers below them, but that game is on the road. And we all know about traveling, out west and all that. Of course, SMU, it's weird. SMU is in the ACC, but they don't have to travel from the Atlantic coast all the way to California because they're in Texas, obviously. So it's maybe not quite as bad, but still, again, it's all based off of our tier rankings. There is no, we don't do any predictions. There is no human element here, all based off of these numbers. And again, Syracuse and Cal both in that range. I would say that, again, SMU probably going to be about a touchdown favorite, 6-7 points in these two games, but definitely not games you feel really good about. You feel pretty good, but you don't feel great about those two games. All right, and then we've got, let's go to really the only game where I think SMU is definitely going to be an underdog. That's Clemson. I don't think they'll be huge underdogs, but I think they're clear-cut underdogs in this one. It's on the road at Clemson. Clemson's going to be the favorite in the ACC. We've got them as a tier number 2 team, 1 tier above SMU. And again, that game also on the road. That's why that one comes out in the yellow. I think that's the toughest game on the schedule without a doubt. And then you've got these games against Baylor, TCU, Miami, and Louisville. All of these games really 50-50 games. These are games that could go either way. I've got Baylor in tier number 3, same tier as SMU. It's a team that should be pretty good this year. TCU is a tier below SMU, but that game's on the road. That's why it is there. Miami and Louisville. So Miami is a tier 2 team, but SMU gets that game at home, so that's going to give them a real good shot there. And then Louisville is also a tier 3 team, just like SMU. So these are really the games. And you look at the schedule. Let's say they lose to Clemson. Let's say they're underdogs in that game. They can't pull it out on the road. They still have a really good shot, a really clear path to the college football playoff. You've just got to win these 50-50 games and take care of business in the games where you'll be favored. If they do that, they're going to be right there at 11-1 again. So you've got Baylor and TCU. SMU's going to have a really good shot in both of those games. Miami and Louisville will be tough, but they're at home, so you would say that they should have a shot in those as well. Again, these are all games that could go either way. Odds would say they're not going to win them all, but if they are able to, then yes, SMU will be at 11-1, and they'll be in the college football playoff. And who knows, maybe they upset Clemson and lose one of these games. There are multiple paths, really, for them to get there. And then, of course, just getting to the ACC Championship and winning it, that'll get you in the college football playoff as well. So what's the projection? Again, odds would not say that they're going to win all these 50-50 games, and the odds would come out to 8-4. So that's the projection for SMU. You could look at, Baylor, TCU, Syracuse, Clemson, Miami, Louisville, and maybe Cal. You've got 7 games there, I guess. Again, Baylor, TCU, Syracuse, Clemson, Miami, Louisville, and Cal. If they split all those games, that's 3.5 losses. They could also maybe slip up somewhere else. But yeah, 8-4 to 9-3, that seems like a pretty fair projection for this team. I think they're closer to 9-3 than 8-4. But when you do the math, I can't remember the exact number, but it was 8-point-something wins. It was under 8.5. And you get to 8-4. So that's the projection for SMU. I'd love to get your thoughts on this team. Do you think they can have another magical type season, or will it be more of a down year? Not a down year, but more back to reality and something like 8-4, like our projection is showing. Give me your thoughts and your projections on this team down in the comments below.